Welcome everyone. Thank you once again for joining us on the second panel for today. We are going to talk about may AI be profitable and ethical at the same time. Personally, I really do believe this is a very interesting topic, and it's a very important topic because most of the time we are hearing that we can choose one or another, or it's very hard to achieve one or the second. Basically, in this fireside chat, we will tackle the issue of usage of AI and can ethical AI be profitable? We will talk about what is important as for making AI, and in general, AI startups profit, and if the AI startups can be profitable, and are they trying to be ethical at the same time? Also, what may be the application of the AI usage, and if you don't think about it right now, what we can do to ensure that AI can benefit and lead to society development, which we truly, I think everyone thinks it's very important to do. Today we are talking with Martin Mossler, who is Managing Director of Science Park Graz, who is also General Manager of DSC Austria, DSC Austria Ambassador, and as well Craig Matthews, who is Senior Innovation Consultant at Science Park Graz. And as he said to me in the preparation, he is an entrepreneur and growth strategist who is very, very passionate about startups. So for the first entry question, I would like to give you all 1 minute to just present a bit yourself, and maybe you can give an overall overview of the topic topic we are going to mention today. So basically, maybe we can start with Craig.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, first and foremost, for the invitation and the opportunity to talk. My name, as you mentioned, is Craig. I'm one of the Senior Innovation Consultants, which is just one of the cogs in a very complete team of consultants working at Science Park Graz, supporting the development of our early stage high-tech companies, many of whom are actually in the process of integrating AI solutions into their technologies. My particular function is to go in and identify where the added value is, to go in to think about how do we build the business case around some of these innovative technologies and to put them on the road to being successful companies.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Martin, the floor is yours.
Well, yeah. Like Craig, I'm having the honor to work at Science Park together with an already mentioned great team. I try to keep things going, and we are quite proud of being one of the key players, not just when it comes to high-tech innovations in Austria, but also beyond, spanning the whole SEE region. So that's what I do for a living in relation to the question of AI. I think we are in a similar situation as at the time when electricity was introduced, when people were asking whether this is good for people's health, whether this is going to be ethical, whether this is going to be profitable, whether this is going to be a waste of time. And similar to the automobile, mass production, people were still thinking that the horse carriage was the future. I think we are at the same crossroads here. As a consequence, I think the question, which is a lovely one, is already answered.
Yeah.
This is not the topic anymore. We are fully in it.
Thank you. So basically, thank you for this short introduction and entry to this, I believe, what will be a very interesting data discussion. We're starting with the first part of this chat, and it is about may AI be profitable and bring real value at the same time. So if you need to choose between two statements, and first being we are living in the age of AI products that influence our daily life. And the second one is AI is overhyped and do not bring real value at this moment, particularly this moment, to the table. Which one would you choose and why? And maybe if you would choose both, also it can be interesting things to say.
Well, I'll get started this time. I think this is also an interesting, when I look at the very top left of my screen, I see streamed live on Facebook as well as recorded. I'm not sure whether I'm more afraid of the recorded element or of the Facebook element, because basically this is where the answer to the question of this topic of this fireside chat is already given, because Facebook is creating AI-based structures which are incredibly powerful and knowledge deliveries of the highest and most efficient degree, giving us what we want to read, not forcefully educating us thereby, while until now, until a few years ago, information consumption always had a critical element of education. When you read the same topic over and over again, it's similar to watching the same series. It's like watching House of Cards all the time, just with different actors. So if you get the same information, the Croatian or the Southeastern European, like the Croatian or also the Serbian language has the term isto sranje, drugi pakiranje, same shit, other package. So basically, what AI is often used for is to package the same elements over and over again in order to create some kind of echo bubble and give us the idea that this is the truth, because if you read it over and over again, although it's the same stuff from the same source. So basically, to move away from Facebook, the answer, whether it's there, because this is often, is AI the future? I'm not sure about the question of the future, but I'm pretty certain that everybody who's well informed needs to be fully aware that we are in the middle of it. And of course, it creates vulnerabilities within systems, and especially when it comes to media content. From a political perspective, we really need to make sure that our democratic values are upheld, and we need to implement. So basically, I see, as I said, a very similar situation to electricity. You don't want to put your finger into the wall socket because it hurts. But it's great to power your smartphone. It's great to power your computer, your hairdryer, whatever. But it really, I don't know, some of you, I've got into the electric current quite a few times in my life. Maybe that's why I don't have any hair anymore. But it's pretty painful. And that's why there is safety regulations in place in order to, it's a small, a normal grown-up can't get into the current. Similar here, I think it's incredibly important to manage this process well. It's incredibly important to use AI to the very best of all of us. But we need a clear design and a regulation in order to make it a success story for us. And especially when it comes to information. Managing information is absolutely key. I already mentioned Facebook. There has been crimes committed because AI always requires a platform to be really powerful. So basically, you need huge data sets to learn, to teach the algorithms. You need powerful computing capabilities, which are prone to create a digital divide. So those who are poor will get potentially poorer in this process, if not well managed. And you need the platform to really make to generate proper effects. So Facebook more or less has it all. It has access to HPC, it has access to huge data sets, and it's its own platform. And there's been crimes committed on this platform, crimes against democracy. There is mobbing activities, and this all needs to be regulated. And we are in the challenge. How long do I have, by the way, Alex?
I'm think that you're covering a few more topics, but we can. I think that we have our time. But
I'm handing over to Craig in a moment. The trouble is that assessing the effects of technology has always been not just a bit of a challenge, it's almost impossible. Before, basically you need to implement in order to see what it leads to. But if you implement without regulation, it's very hard to regulate later. So I'm going to go back to that topic at a later stage, because there is a solution which is possible here. But technology effect analysis is a hefty topic. I'm handing over.
As somebody who is just like before I give a mic to do correct, as somebody who is like from natural science and physics, basically what you describe is basically something that is normal in a nature, because when you're having something that has a bigger mass, it will just get bigger and bigger, basically. So what we are trying to do is to find a system that is basically that's maybe we are facing the issues, like to create a system which can be fair, because nature in its truest form is not fair, to be honest. Like it depends on more values. But what I wanted to maybe ask Craig here is to maybe give me a closer answer, is because you're a senior innovation consultant and you're talking to a lot of AI. Do you think actually, do you get that notice that maybe AI, the startups are saying that everything they do is AI just because of the, let's say, buzzword, and
yes,
sometimes it's not.
I want to answer, my answer is yes. It happens a lot.
And how do you think that can also is influencing, like, let's say, the whole industry, whole ecosystem? It is, let's say, false prophets for saying that they are doing AI, and basically, do you think it has a very, very bad reputation, and do you think that maybe it can lead to something that people don't? What is your opinion about that? Let's say in briefest.
In general, I think that the use of AI in terms of startups is, as Martin already said, is sort of overused in a way. And I think that there is always the argument that whether or not the actual AI is adding the value to the startup, or whether or not it could be done with a, let's say, a less energy consuming solution, a more simplistic way. But there are lots of powerful drivers for why startups do go out there and try to integrate elements of AI within their technologies or within their businesses. Gartner, for example, forecast that this year AI would be one of the top 5 investment priorities when it comes to ICOs, those CIOs, the chief information officers, when they're looking at targets for their company. So there's a strong motivation for startups to go out there and say, yes, we have AI, because it's an investment criteria. It makes sense. If they want to get funding, many funding regimes are built around innovation, and you have to be able to demonstrate that innovation. And I think that AI, for serious players, has a lot to contribute to their business success, really adding value. You just have to look at examples in the healthcare sector, for example, when it comes to looking at cancer diagnoses and being able to really look at large samples of data and to identify, for example, cancerous cells. But then there are the sort of the other companies which are integrating AI, and as I mentioned in my opening comments, that these are perhaps not so strong. The business case there is really not as strong.
Yeah. So what I wanted also to continue with you, Craig, and after that to go back to Martin, is what in your experience are the most important things when we want to make AI profitable? Because like there's many things that the AI can be used, and in terms sometimes it's very hard to explain to somebody what is return of investment, or what can it be profitable in some time. So maybe if you can share your thoughts, and maybe also maybe you can make a parallel with some how it differs from some other high-tech products, because AI is high-tech product.
It's a very interesting question. In general, I don't really create a substantial differentiation between an AI algorithm and a microfluidic chip. Both are providing, both are trying to solve a problem. And the question is, for any business, is that what is the problem? What is the job to be done? What is the actual artificial intelligence doing within the company? What value is it giving to the customer? So I think that this is something that's really important. But I was also taking the opportunity to look into sort of what might be those parameters in the future. We look at the return on processing power, for example, as an investment case, because I think that there is we do have to look at what is the computational requirements behind driving these AIs and looking into the data, or looking at a return on gigabit investment, for example. So I think that the way in which we value AI-led solutions and the way in which we define the return on that investment may change. But I think that in principle, as I mentioned already, it's about what is the job to be done? What is the added value that the AI is actually bringing to the company?
Yeah, an interesting thing you said, that added value. So basically, Martin, what I wanted also to explore your opinion about this, when we're talking about added value. Sometimes it's very hard to, let's say, draw the line between what is like you said, what is harmful, what is not harmful. So basically, what is your opinion about that? Like, especially in the US, you know, that there is a saying, if it's easier to pay it and break the law. So basically, what is your standpoint? Somebody who is like, I know that you value ethical point very much. What do you think that this kind of approach with something powerful as AI, and especially when we are talking about maybe AI-powered quantum computer with quantum ML, what is your standpoint? What can be potential harmful usage of this kind of thing? Like, what's your stand on that?
Well, large parts of it was already mentioned. It's especially when it comes to information. The management of information is actually one of the key freedoms. We tend to not see that so much, but basically all free societies since the dynamism of enlightenment were based on freedom to access information, to process it, and our whole scientific principle is very much grounded on the idea that you have a hypothesis and you go for an antithesis, thesis and antithesis, and then you synthesize this. And basically the challenge for an AI-based system is pretty much to create a dynamic which is transparent, which makes it, because basically we don't really understand, like I do. I'm kind of, this is important to me because, but probably 70% of the people who use a combustion engine don't know how the combustion process works, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I'd like to use this example. Neither do they know how a gearbox works, an alternator, you know, a catalyzer, nothing. But they drive well. Someone needs to know. If you want to know how the engine works, you need to be able to kind of look into it or have a chart. Because what we are confronted with when it comes to AI is more or less that you don't even know whether it's a petrol engine, a diesel engine, an electric engine, a nuclear engine. You have no idea what's running in your car. Yeah. So the element of transparency is absolutely key. So you need to know which decision was taken on which grounds. And this is, of course, going quite seriously into a philosophical approach in terms of utilitarianism. There's several decision modes which all have their ups and downs, but I don't want to go into these. But what really I think that the most serious downsides are in this area of transparency, because basically, by the way, we are confronted with high frequency trading for almost 2 decades, which is very much high frequency trading of commodities and stocks, which is very much an AI-based high performance computing thing, where it's important to, the closer you are to the center of information exchange. That's why all the banks are so close at one place, because they want to be as close to the key exchange point. And if you're 50 meters closer, you have a competitive advantage when it comes to high frequency trading. So this is an area where we, for the last, the 2008 and 9 financial meltdown was pretty much accelerated through this. So we've been confronted with AI effects for more than 1.5 decades, actually. So my take is that it's great. We are in the innovation business, so we would be wrongly set here if we had a problem with AI. I have a problem with all the crappy minds who try to talk themselves into incubation by using AI as a catchphrase without even knowing what it is. But I have no problem with AI as such. I think it will make a huge difference. Like the car made a huge difference to us. It's one of the greatest inventions and innovations there is. The car gave us freedom, it gave us liberty, it gave us CO2, it gave us death, it gave us harm all over the place, but it's still a great invention. And when 140 years ago, the combustion engine, to go back to this example, the combustion engine was invented. We did not know, it was just great, and we did not know that we would be fighting things such as climate change 1.5 decades later. And we need to avoid this process by getting smarter from the past technology, technology effect analysis is key here, because what happened to the combustion engine, some of the greatest inventions ever, and now one of the most serious troubles and problems which we may not even fix anymore. This is going to be way faster when it comes to AI, because the whole adoption process with the combustion system took about 50 years from the problem analysis and diagnosis to starting, to reducing cubic centimeters, catalyzing, etc. So we need to avoid that, because AI is going to be far too fast for our reaction mode. We need to start now regulating in a way that we don't hamper the development of AI, but rather make it as Craig said, what is the solution? What does it serve for? In my opinion, the question is, what do we want to get out of it? Do we want a more liberal, in my opinion, a more liberal, a freer, a more equal, and a healthier society, and not one where monopolies, which is currently the case, look on top of your screen again. You can read one monopoly there, where monopolies basically get bigger, and the law of aggregation, which you've just mentioned from physics, the law of accumulation, is basically taking place. This is what a civilization is coined by, the management of natural processes, where the shark is not eating everything, but people can survive on a social contract. And we need a social strategic contract for AI, as much as we do need it for all other technologies, such as genetic modifications, etc. I think this is, again, this is a similar topic which can change the planet, but it can also ruin us if it's not well done.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to add, you said about combustion engines, but also like people don't understand, for example, data centers, they're also generating a lot of CO2, especially with developing in data. Also, people don't understand that this can also be a problem if you don't approach right now in design and everything else, which is something that people don't totally understand. They say, okay, AI, but AI is not about data. Of course, it's about data. Without data, you cannot have AI. Without massive data, and you need to store somewhere that massive data. And everyone would like to have their own massive data. And when we're talking about that, that also can be, like I said, some side issue that people don't understand, that can also be seen as something that's okay. People think about AI, they all the time think about Terminator or something like that. The robots taking over the world, and they don't understand there is a much, let's say, much deeper consequence that can be used, but also it can be used for something good, for sure. Like, what I wanted to ask, maybe you, Martin, if you can just tell me in one sentence to just, let's say, go to application technology usage. Can you just describe in 1 or 2 sentences what is ethical use of AI for you? If you could, if you need to explain to somebody who is like totally, I don't know, newbie, or somebody who would like to know, or some professional, doesn't matter. If you would need to explain in 1 sentence, how would you describe ethical use of AI? I think that is something that people we don't have agreement on the, let's say, on the worldwide level about this term.
Ethical use of AI would clearly be would be following the principles of enlightenment, of creating a free, tolerant, and more equality-driven society. We don't need to reinvent this kind of hot water part. We still are fighting to get where we wanted to be almost 300 years ago. It would be creating good AI, would be creating a freer, more liberal, more democratic, more equal, and more sustainable society. That's what it should aim for, and that requires policies, that requires politics to intervene, smart politics. That will not be, and it's almost a bit too late already. And I mean, there are smart people who created their own almost monopolies, like Elon Musk, who basically say that this is the most serious challenge. There's people like Yuval Harari, who say AI, nuclear weapons, and inequality are the biggest challenges for our planet. Climate change, not inequality, climate change. So basically, if politics doesn't take care of this, and I really strongly, I mean, we're not politicians, but this is something which needs to be regulated now very harshly, actually, so that when you see certain effects which you anticipated to be worse, to be actually okay, you can take out that regulation. But regulating something which is already derailing, look at the combustion process and its CO2 emissions. So it would have been, actually, the first cars were electric, right? The first cars were electric cars. It's not a joke. And now here we are, 140 years, 120 to 140, depending what you count as a car. Later, we're trying to get electrified propulsion systems. So an ethical system really needs to, in order to make sure that the ethics, which I mentioned to be important to me, are reached, you need to implement a pretty harsh regulation. Still not, this requires a bit of a genius, because you want to enable the maximum development of AI in order to make the maximum difference in ecological, health-related, education-related issues. You want to get smarter kids out with AI. You want to see what is their learning deficiencies, how you can give them a broader view, how you can kind of potentially, if they have a narrow-minded political approach because they got, you know, some homeschooling from narrow-minded, non-tolerant parents, you want to realize that, and you want to give them additional information which broadens their horizon and makes them more internationalist and open-minded individuals rather than the opposite. AI can do that. AI can support us in this process and see basic, but it can also create an echo bubble which makes you much more stupid than you were before reading some Facebook post, right?
What is important? What is interesting thing to just add and to go to Craig after this? Basically, like, and I will look up for the source, because I think that sharing unsourced data can be very, very harmful. Also, basically, the intelligence of the human beings, as etc., is was going up until generation 1992. After that, or 1993. After that, it's going a bit slower and down. And one of the reasons why they said it's because of social networks, because the social networks are not allowing for normal person to, for example, to be developed. So basically, there is a lot of things that people, I think, that don't understand how fast we are evolving in this team, how technology is evolving, that sometimes for some kind of studies, especially psychology, sociology studies, it needs a lot of time so we can understand what can be the implication of it. But basically, this is an excellent, let's say, intro for the question for Craig, and that is, do you think that in general, startups and businesses have...
Sorry, could you just mention that again?
We lost you, Alex. We lost you. I think should we still be streaming? I think you could answer the question from what you understood.
Yeah, what I was going to do is I was just going to just add on.
Just FYI, we just lost Alex, right? So it's only him. Others are seeing, so we can continue actually. Thank you.
I just wanted to add on to the points that Martin was mentioning about the need for regulation. And actually, it's an excellent call to action for you and your wider community, your audience here, because in order to really design good regulation, we actually need people who actually understand the technology. And therefore it's not just about developing the algorithms, but it's also about going out there and joining those boards, being part of those regulatory committees, those ethic committees. Shape how we make use of these technologies now and into the future. Alex, you mentioned a question. Could you maybe just repeat that for me, please? I think you're on mute.
We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's working. Yeah.
Sorry, basically, like I said, basically, my question is: do you think that the general businesses and startups have in mind this kind of ethical approach when they are developing their products, and basically, or if they want to implement something AI to already their products, for example, to, I don't know.
Alex, we cannot hear you.
Basically, do you think that this is something?
Maybe something happened with the mic.
I could hear you.
It's working, Alex. Maybe recheck, please. The setup of your mic.
A second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I understood the question.
Yeah.
Let me give it a go. To be honest, it depends on the startup, and it depends on which area they're developing their technology in. For example, those who are developing technologies in the medical space will know that this is already a very highly regulated sector, where there is certain standards in terms of how you develop and how you document your code, how you come to decisions. All of this has to be is scrutinized tremendously. So, you know, people who are developing, and, you know, we have startups within our community here who are developing similar, technologies powered by AI, where they are having to adhere to very, very harsh, well, I wouldn't say harsh, but, you know, rightly so, maybe, regulations in the medical space. I do believe that a lot of people are very conscious of the ethical questions. Operate from heuristics. We create those shortcuts in our understanding. We learn one thing, something once, and then we sort of create the shortcut, and then every time we see something that represents that, we come to quick decisions. You know, this is how we're able to be very dynamic and evolve as a species. But when it comes to AI, it's a different question. You know, they have a lot more. Bypass some of these heuristics, the bias that can be represented in the code, or in the data, should I say? Yeah.
Let me use I would like to, and this is coining us, I would like to challenge Craig slightly. I think that the regulation is not really that harsh, because I'm going back to the car example, not because I don't understand anything. Let's go for planes now, you know? If planes were built as shitty as computers and software, we would all not fly. Because look at how crappy and unstable our IT is. Look at how many IT technicians a team of 20, 30 people needs. I go to my garage once a year with my car, and I have an old car, and our computer guy is here twice a week, you know? So I think when it comes, if you look at all the software, you know, the big players in software and hardware, there is a serious testing on the like in the field going on, much different, completely different to heavily regulated areas such as aerospace. Cars are like, mobility as such is not so heavily regulated, but aerospace is like, we would need similar like equally tough regulation in that sector, I think. And as I said, the software which we're using today, the hardware is actually pretty okay when it comes to IT, apart from switches wearing out every few years. But when it comes to the software, I mean, what other producer can ship a product which requires permanent updates because it already has bugs when being delivered? Where on earth can you find something like that? And this does not make me too confident that AI is going to play out well, although I think it can. But it needs to be, this needs to be well regulated, because the whole development of computing as such was not really driven by too much political foresight. It was more or less a tit for tat, and let's move one step after another. This needs to be different now, because people's lives are at stake here in the next level. It's already, you know, a lot of lifetime being wasted on non-functioning IT. I really hate it, and I'm using the example again. If our cars and planes were as bad as our computers are, we would not drive and we would not fly, because it would be too dangerous.
Yeah, and my question for you is regarding this one is a very concrete question. What do you think, and I would like both of you, if you can just, if you think about it, what we can do right now in this moment to raise awareness among startups and businesses regarding ethical AI? Do you think that there is something that we can do about this thing? Because, like I said, I think that we all agree this is very, very important topic, and it's very like it has a lot of influence on the society. So basically, my question for you is, what do you think we can do right now in this moment for this thing? Do you think that there is something actually?
Does this question approach me, or?
Yeah, for you first. For you also, if Craig after that can also relate.
I think, to be honest, it would be wrong to put this task on the shoulders of startups or on the shoulders of like, you know, of industry players. There is a few, such as Elon Musk, who are fully aware and who are actually doing a hell of a lot in order to activate a discourse on this. But I think what we can do is exactly what we do right at this stage, right in this talk, creating discourse in a philosophical sense, and thereby opening a debate which will make a difference. It will have to make a difference, and it will have to influence policy. It will have to influence political action. It is not down to the industry players or to the startups to fix this, because what this generates is already known. This generates weak tech. This generates even weaker software. I'm very critical, because I really don't get it, how such a powerful industry can deliver such inferior technology. I really love technology. I really love innovation, but I see, I'm sometimes not even sure whether the failure of the system is not part of the business model. Probably it is. So basically, creating discourse, influencing politicians and policies, staying on the message that this is something huge, which will make a huge difference to us in any, you know, it can be incredibly positive, and it can more or less really potentially risk the existence of humanity. I'm not that bleak, because but never mind. I think this is discourse. Exactly what we do is key, and we should not leave it to industry or startups as such, because these players are economic players. Our startups are as well. They are not ethical or moral players, and they should not be. That's why we live in a law-based system where strategies are being developed in order to prevent certain things from happening. That's why we have regulations on the road, in the air, even in space we have regulations, but we have far too little when it comes to IT and to information exchange.
Yeah, and basically, I think that also when we are speaking about these regulations, I think that there is a lot of the issue with this is that what I was looking at, and I was like following this. There is not too much people who are really data professionals in that level, like professional let's say, community is not also asked to give their opinion about something, because sometimes there is some regulation that are very, very hard. It's sometimes even impossible to implement, but they can be used on some different level that you can get the same let's say, same result in the end, which with much better results. So basically, my personal opinion that the professional community should try to involve themselves, not to be asked to be involved, but to say we would like to be involved in the development of this kind of regulation, because the best of people who can develop, like let's say, regulation for biomedicine or medicine are people who study that, or who finish, who have a lot of experience. So basically, I think that this is also can be a call for the professional community to be a bit more involved when it comes to this. Like it is a new thing. People who could be expert in this field can have 26, 27 years. They started in 15, when they're 15 to try to do something like this, and they have 10 plus years of experience. So like I said, this can be a trick. So basically, maybe also give Craig also floor to maybe also give his share on this. And also I would like to give one additional food for thought, and that is, do you think can and should ethical AI be profitable in the first place? That's also like one additional side for the Craig follow-up.
So I would take this down to the individual level. When I interact with startups, very often I'm dealing with extremely passionate people who love the technology. In fact, I would say that most of them, certainly from looking at them from a high-tech perspective, have a love for what they're trying to do. I don't think that they're morally bad people. I don't think they come from a bad place. I think that what they are very often trying to do is to develop technologies that deliver value. Of course, there is the unintended consequences and all that sort of dilemma. But on the whole, I think that I'm very hopeful. I believe that structures like your conference, plus others like AI for Good Foundation, etc., are actually going out there and putting AI in a much more positive light. And I think that by raising awareness, what we do as an incubator is to make them aware, to support them in that area. Then I think that we can at least make them aware when a problem is. I don't think that we can expect them to solve the problems. I think that this is something that's going to happen over time. It's a collective effort. Very often, when somebody develops a new AI technology, very often they're holding up a mirror to themselves, and I think that this is good. It provides people with the opportunity to reflect upon themselves, to see how they perceive the world, and to understand their technology and how what a beautiful mirror they've created. But I generally think that from a startup perspective, thinking about the constellation, diversity is an extremely important factor, in making people aware, to allow them to lift up their heads from their coding, from just trying to feed a system with data, to actually thinking about how might this impact from different perspectives, gender, race, etc., etc.
This sounds interesting, and basically, yeah, like I said, when I was talking with a lot of professionals, and they said that to this very clearly. They say, okay, when you're speaking about ethical AI, mostly we're talking about biases. This is the first thing that comes to our mind. But basically, we need to understand that we have, as a society, as a race, we have been biased for so long. And of course, data will, on the first place, show this. So basically, we need first to acknowledge this, that this was true, but really acknowledge in our minds this was the case, and after that we can think about how we can maybe go forward and use this bias to create like Martin said, a more fair society, basically. But like I said, the first step is acknowledgement, for sure. And when we're talking about this, I would like to, for the last part of this, I would like to ask you first, Craig, and then Martin, do you believe that AI at this moment is used effectively and efficiently for socio-economical development? And if yes, what do you think we are doing good at the moment? And if no, what we can do to change this? Right? Martin already said about the laws, so this is one thing for sure, but do you think there is something else like we can do in this field?
So for me, the answer is yes. I think that not always, but I think that AI is actually being deployed for positive socioeconomic development. You can, in fact, I know this from first-hand knowledge because we have within our wonderful community here of startups, companies that are tackling some of these challenges, whether or not it's the allocation of more effective allocation of resources for disaster relief. We have companies working on that using AI. Whether or not it's the looking through thousands upon thousands of images of cell structures, identifying cancerous cells, for early detection of cancers. I know that this has been worked on. Whether or not it's supporting the blind to navigate their surroundings, to be able to increase the quality of life of people who are blind, for example. I know that this is something that is being worked on and is being worked on by startups within our community. So I do believe that AI is being used for social economic development. I think that it's great when we celebrate it and when we raise the profile of those companies and those developers working on those topics. And to be honest, I have to say that from an Austrian perspective, I'm British myself, but from an Austrian perspective, I think that Austria does a very good job at raising awareness and shining the spotlight on companies who are developing with their technology, very often with AI, these social-economic improvements.
This is good. Martin, can you maybe also, what is your opinion about this topic, like about is AI effectively and efficiently used for socioeconomic development?
Well, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, it is, we can already observe the effects, the positive as well as the negative ones. The negative ones are very much associated to unbalanced information and echo chambers. The great ones are, energy and environment, adoptions in the sector of energy and environment, of Earth observation, incredible results, images and, climate change monitoring, Arctic and Antarctic ice demelting monitoring based on AI logics, incredible medical data sets being digitalized and worked on with incredibly smart and well-trained algorithms. The best tech you can think of, way better at the decision support mechanism in terms of diagnosis than the human eye, much less prone to failure, etc. Especially in the sector of health, I see a lot of great opportunities already. I see great startups within our company working on. Craig mentioned quite a few areas already.
Yeah.
I see in the sector of predictive maintenance of technology as well as of our human body, big advantages to be made in the next years. This is an incredible time for all of us. We did not witness the implementation of electricity. We did not witness the implementation of gas light. We did not see the Edison develop the recording. We did not see Tesla develop alternate AC electricity. But we are witnessing more or less the fusion of many technologies and technical streams, which will more or less all be bundled into one and make a huge difference. And this is a privilege, but of course it can be something to think back and say, this is I don't want to be thinking of the time before AI in 10 years and like it. Because I want this to be good. I want this to make a difference. I want this to make us smarter. And we will not get smarter if we keep reading the same crap over and over again. Isto sranje, drugi pakiranje does not make you smarter. And the logic of our brains, we need to always, and this is probably the last thing which matters, which I want to kind of put into this forum. The ethical dimension we didn't touch upon yet, you know, for example, caring robots, entertaining, you know, robots or software entertaining children, AI-based teaching programs, home teaching. What does this do to people's brains? There needs to be research conducted on this, and we still need to always remember that we are deeply enrooted social human beings and individuals, and social human beings require social interaction as well. It is, of course, very cheap, like in Japan already practiced, to care for the elderly with robotic support. The question is, what does this do to our brains and to our, you know, to our whole social structure? And I am deeply convinced that we need to actually we will be required to read more diverse stuff. We will be required to interact more with each other. This is a learning process, like, you know, when television was implemented, people were watching television all day long. They were getting glasses within a year because their eyes died. So you got smarter. You realized that switching the light on at night when watching TV is protecting your eyes quite a bit and saving you the spectacles for a few years. And this will be the same process here. We will be kind of step by step using this technology smarter. And but we need to be aware that this is something really serious. This is about as serious as you know, as the as nuclear fission it was for energy and atomic bombs. This can be really detrimental. This can also be a beautiful source of enlightenment and uplifting. This can make us live longer, live smarter, live healthier. And I think it will, but it will require all of us to sit together and to work together and to really go for a bigger, larger goal, because entropy is a shitty thing, you know. Entropy pushes it all down, and capitalism doesn't help in this process because it all pulls it down towards a few players.
Yeah, okay, this is very physical, like things about to say, and I totally like it because, like I said, I'm a physician by my vocational. But for the last time, because we don't have too much time, and we have one interesting question. But before we goes to that, I would like to ask you very briefly, like, you know, if you can do it one minute at the most. What is the one, let's say, one key AI breakthrough that you would like to see by, let's say, if you can fast travel to 2025? What is the one key AI breakthrough that you would like to see in year 2025? Like, if you can imagine it, I don't know, for cancer, whatever you think that you would like to see in 2025.
If I may try first, because I might be stealing one of Martin's suggestions here. The flying taxi, autonomous, you know, the ability to go out and to be able to call a car towards you when you need it, not keeping it dormant in some driveway or in some parking space, but to be able to have, let's say, the democratization of mobility, you know, where people can use their transportation as they want.
I would like to contest this because I'm not entirely sure whether autonomous flight is requiring AI. I would actually challenge this. I would say no, but I like your idea. I would say no because autonomous flight is actually so easy compared to autonomous drive that I'm pretty certain that AI is not really required. Probably large data sets, yes, you know, you need to see to know where the cables are and the power lines, but I think you can fly autonomous without too much AI. I think what I would love to see, so yes, I would love to see flying taxis as well. Not sure whether there's other challenges, I guess. There's rather the electricity, the supply of electricity and supply of energy, which is more challenging here. And that's also what I want to go for here. I would love to see AI help us to really fix our energy situation and our energy issues. We have partly developed a fix in terms of renewables, but our energy solution, our energy issues will finally be solved if we kind of manage to find the key to nuclear fusion. And I would love to see AI help us fix this, because that would be amazing. That would be making a hell of a difference. And if, with all the downsides, AI helped us to get closer to a proper, stable nuclear fusion process, that would be amazing. That would be kind of worth all the risks we're taking at the moment.
Yeah, because we are basically running out of time. So basically, we have one question, but I think that we will need a bit more than 5 minutes to answer, because it's very complex. But I'll share with you, and maybe if you got the time, maybe we can share with the rest of the, because it's very, very interesting question, and we do need I think at least 10 or 15 minutes to relate to that, not to just like say answer something. I would like to thank both of you, Craig and Martin. You were like, it was very, very nice. It was excellent, actually, fireside chat. Thank you for your insight. I think that this topic is very, very important, like you said, both of you said, and I think it's very important to talk about it right now in this moment, and not sometime in 2 or 3 or 5 years. Thank you all once again. To everybody else, thank you for listening us. The next data discussion will be how AI is fostering dehumanization of decision making. It's very, very interesting approach, a very interesting topic, and our interviewers will be Alexandra Przgalinska, who is researcher at MIT, and Wolfgang Heinrich, who is director of Know Center. So I think that you will have also very, very cool things to talk about. So thank you all, and to join this second session, you just need to enter to the second link. And once again, Martin, Craig, thank you a lot, because you accepted our call to be our panelist today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Alex, all the best. Bye.
Bye.